February 9, 2021. It's episode 163. Don't lose your match. This is a 39.6 Facebook and YouTube live finance show, the show that teaches high earners like yourselves how to make your money work for you so you don't have to work for your money. We talk general investing, taxes, real estate, syndications, Airbnb, paying for childcare, and even the car you drive. Today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about planning your 4K, 403B contributions. It's early in the year, so it's a good time to talk about this, as I've had multiple people ask me, both in the group and also outside the group, how to optimize this situation with your 401k or 403b, your retirement contributions, and your match. So here we go. Okay, so one of the very important things to know about is that in every job, in their retirement plans, you have to read the fine print of how they do the match, the employer match, okay? A typical, what we call a safe harbor match, will match people dollar for dollar for the first 3% of their income, and then 50 cents to the dollar for the next 2% of their income. So let's pretend you were to contribute 3% of your income. They would give you an exact even match, dollar for dollar. If you put in 4% of your income, they would give you 3.5%. And if you put in 5% of your income, they would give you 4%. That's a typical safe harbor match that a lot of people have. Okay. And your employer match is part of your compensation. That is part of your income. So you always want to get that money. A lot of people say that's like guaranteed money or free money. Well, it's part of your income. It's part of your salary. So if you do not get that money, you are literally giving money back to your employer. Okay, so you need to think about it that way. You have to make sure you get every penny of that match. And it seems very simple to a lot of people. If you just need to put in 5% to get the full 4% match, just put in 5%. Okay, well, that, yes, would work. Okay, if you did that, you would get all of your match. Now, this gets more complicated as your income gets higher, okay? Because there's a limit on how much money you can put in of your own income into a 401k or a 403b, as what we call an elective deferral. That means a voluntary deferral of your salary into your retirement plan. So you don't actually receive it, you're deferring it and pushing it over to your retirement account, a 401k or a 403b, okay? So I'm going to show this little chart here. Sorry, they're not all showing up. Okay, there you go, in the screen. That's interesting. Let me try making my screen. There we go. That is really odd. Why it will not show in the screen. Okay, I guess I have to kind of add some columns to make it fixed. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. So your employee deferral limit for 2021 is $19,500. Okay, now if you're 50 years or older, there's extra money you can put in. It's called a catch-up contribution, but we're just going to ignore that. Okay, it's like usually $6,000, maybe a little bit higher this year, I'm not sure. Okay, but that's called the 402G limit. That is the amount of money that you can defer from your income. Now, there's also a limit of annual additions into a 401k or a 403b from the employee and from the employer combined. For 2021, that limit is $58,000. Okay, so those are the key numbers you need to know about. And where does this $58,000 come from? It comes from an income limit of $290,000. If you take that income limit of $290,000 and you divide it by 5, you get $58,000. Or another way of saying this is that $58,000 is 20% of $290,000. A lot of times people ask, how much can I put in from my side gig or from my 1099 income into a retirement plan? And a lot of people will say it's 20% of your income. It's a little bit more complicated. It's 20% of your net income after deducting half of self-employment tax. But the point is that 20% ratio is what limits how much money can go into a plan. And it's very important as your income gets high enough, if you exceed this income limit, it makes it more complicated, okay? More money, more problems, right? This is all about, there are all these things that are there in place so that if you earn too much, you can't get too big of a tax benefit from it. So if you make $1 million, your company's not going to give you a 3% or 4% safe harbor match on the full $1 million. That'll be $40,000. Okay, it gets capped at an income of a certain amount, which in this situation is $290,000. Last year, it was $285,000, which made the total employee plus employer limit combined $57,000. But this year is $58,000. And I want to make it very clear that there is no limit of, in this situation, $38,500. Okay, a lot of people think that the employer can only give $38,500 because if you subtract $58,000 minus $19,500, you get $38,500. That there is no $38,500 limit. So if the employee were not to put in any money, the most that an employer could put in is actually $58,000. Okay, but that wouldn't be as a match. That would be as a combination of match plus profit sharing. Okay, when I talk about match, we're talking about like the dollar for dollar match, like 1% to 1%, 2% to 2%, 3% to 3. And then if you go up to 5%, then it's like 4% because it's a half a match. Okay, so I'm going to go through this example here that one of my buddies, we'll call him JC Chazé from, what was that boy group called? NSYNC, JC Chazé, right? That's he from NSYNC? I think so. But he asked me, and he's got a new gig. Uh-oh. I think I might have lost my connection. I hope it's still going. Okay. He asked me, how can I basically make sure I get as much of my 403B as I can? Okay. So for round number's sake, and to explain how this having more than $290,000 matters, I'm going to put in $300,000. So $300,000 of income, and they have a match of 50% of every dollar you put in up to a total of 6%. So this is a little bit worse than a safe harbor match, which remember the safe harbor match was 4% matched for 5% contributions. This is only going to be a 3% match on 6% contributions. However, you get an additional 3% no matter what. So then it actually ends up being better. It ends up being basically 6%, okay? And actually, you know what? For simplicity, for the first example, I'm going to do $290,000. Okay, and in this example, it's exactly the same as the income limit. And let's just say there's 24 pay periods. The person wants to max out the elective deferrals. That's going to be $19,500. And I personally really loathe the term max out because it makes it sound like you're doing something amazing, but you're just kind of doing what you need to do. You're not actually saving that much money. If you're only saving $19,500 out of a almost $300,000 income, that's like 7% of your income. Is not going to get the job done. Okay. Now, the employer match is limited to half of that. So I can put equals this times 50%. Okay, so that means that the employer is going to give you $97.50. Now, if the employer is going to give you an additional 3% of your income, it goes put that the income $290,000 times 3%, and that gets you another $8,700. And I'll just put total 403B, and I would just add those three together: 19,500, what you put in, 97.50, which is 50% match, and 8,700, which is that additional 3%. We're going to call that a profit sharing contribution. So in total, you're getting in about $38,000. Okay, and that $38,000 is not quite the $58,000 total. It's about 2/3 of it or so. It's a good amount, but it's not all of it. There's no way to get additional 403B money in here because the system is not designed to get the full $58,000. And often that's the situation because you have a lot of other employees, and in order for you to be able to get, or the employer to give you more money, they would often have to give everybody else more money as well. And it might not be cost effective because they have a lot of employees. Okay. And so this is how it works out for this person. Now, there is an exception that you could have what's called after tax contributions allowed. And if so, then you could do if you can do after tax contributions, then there's still a little bit more room left. Because you could add more money up until you hit that $58,000 limit. In this situation, you could do after tax contributions, if they allowed it, of equals 58,000 minus the 37,950 of $20,050. Now, you would only want to do this if you're allowed to do in-service Roth conversions of that money. And that's what we call the mega backdoor Roth, or allow you to roll it out and then do a Roth conversion. Okay. And I have a previous episode all about mega backdoor Roth. I don't remember the number of it off the top of my head, but I have an old episode on that. So just look up mega backdoor Roth, and I have a calculator for it too in the Facebook group. Okay. So what's important to know here is that the match is designed so that you're only getting 50% of every dollar for the first 6%. In this situation, the person earns $290,000 and is exactly at that amount. But they are only matching that first 6%. And often what they do is they only match each paycheck for 6%. And they continue doing that until you hit your $19,500. So let's pretend per paycheck that $290,000 divided by 12 or by 24, because there's 24 pay periods. Let's pretend the first pay period you get $12,083. And different companies have it designed different ways and how you can sign up to how much money goes in. Some people are allowed to do a percentage. Some people are allowed to do a flat dollar amount. But let's pretend they let you do a percentage, and let's pretend they let you put it up to 100%. Usually they don't do that, but let's pretend they do 100. Ours lets us do 70%. You set to 100%, then your first paycheck, you would put $12,083 into your 403B as elective deferral. Okay. However, they're only going to match basically put in 3% of your income for that pay period. They're only going to put in $360. Okay. Because they only match that first 6% of your income. Then the next pay period, you're going to put another $12,000, but you can't. You're going to already hit $19,500 by your second paycheck. And what they're going to do is they're going to put in 3% of your income again as that 50%. So you're going to get another $360. Okay, but now you're going to get the additional 3% as well. So for each of those, so you're going to get like $720 each time. That's $1,400. But what's going to happen is on your third paycheck, you're not putting any money into it anymore because you've already maxed that $19,500. You've hit your wall. So because you're not putting any money in, you're not going to get any match. Okay, you can't put in your 6% to get a 3% match. Now they will continue doing the 3% they're going to give every single time. So you're still going to end up getting $360, but you're not going to get $720 per paycheck because you hit your cap too early. So what you have to do is you can just set your contribution to 6% every month. Okay. And if you do that, you'll get your entire match, but 6% of your income. Okay. So if I hit equals your income times 6%, you're only getting $17,400. Okay. So if you only did 6%, then you're going to short yourself on your employer, on your $19,500 limit. You're going to be short by $2,100. So there's an extra $2,100 you can put in. Okay. So what you could do is you could do 6% every single paycheck and then add an extra $2,100 on like the first paycheck or the last paycheck. Or you could just divide 19,500 by the number of paychecks you have, okay? Per pay period is $813. Sorry, I think I divided by 12 a second ago. Oh no, I put 3%. So, sorry, equals 290,000 times 6%, and I said 17,400. That's not per pay period, that's 17,400, but the amount you would put in per pay period, if you wanted to make sure you got it exactly right, you take your 19,500, you divide it by the 24 pay periods here, and you make sure you have $813 going in per paycheck. Okay. And when you do that, you end up getting exactly the amount you need per paycheck that allows you to hit your 19,500. It's actually going to be $812.50. So if you can tell them you want exactly $812.50 per paycheck, you're going to be fine. If you know your income and it's the exact same amount of income every month, and you decide that you want to do a percentage, then you could just figure out what percentage of your income will be $812.50. Now, that will get you to the $19,500 by the end of the year, and you won't lose any match. Okay. Now you can also just set to 6%. And then at the end of the year, like the last month or the last paycheck, just make sure you get to the 19,500. So if you want to do this without any math, you would just set it to 6%. And then on the very last paycheck, just crank it to the highest number possible. Okay. And what they will do is, let's pretend your max percentage is 70% like it is for me. I can just, for my very last paycheck, set it to 70%. And what they will do is they will make sure that I fill up any remaining money to get to 19,500, but it will not allow me to go over. Like almost universally, your 401k or 403b plan will not allow you to accidentally over contribute on the employee deferral because it's set to automatically cut off. If for some reason they did allow you to do that, then you call them up and have them undo it either on the current paycheck or your subsequent paycheck and give the money back to you. Okay. It's always cleaner to have this all done before the year is over. So for example, if you get paid on the 1st and the 15th of the month, then if you do it on the 15th, then you have 2 more weeks to fix any problems. I get paid on the 15th and the 30th. Okay. Or 15th and the last day of the month. So in this exact situation, I actually don't necessarily recommend waiting to the very last paycheck to fix it to fill it up, because then you don't have any days left in the year to fix a problem. And there can always be a problem with these contributions. A lot of companies, if you change it on the website, how much money you want to put in, it might not change it until the month following or 2 months following, things like that. And so that's the reason why it's often just easier to figure out what you need to be for the entire year and just set it and forget it. And then you don't have to worry about, did they change it in time? Now, for my wife, for example, her website at UT Southwestern is very straightforward. You can say for this particular paycheck, the next paycheck, and it'll tell you if you can still make a change for the subsequent paycheck. You can choose exact dollar amount, how much you want it to be, and set it, and that effect will go in. Now, it does not allow you to go in and type in what it is for each month. It just allows you to change what it's going to be for the subsequent month, and then that change will stay. So if you want to change it for 1 month, but change it back for the next month after, you have to go back in. And so you just have to kind of put that reminder in your calendar to do it after your paycheck, after you see that money was posted. Then for the next month, you just want to change it. I hope that's not too confusing. Now, let's go back to the example where you have $300,000. Okay. Now, in this example of $300,000, the only difference is you're not going to change the amount you're going to put in per month or per paycheck. It's still going to be $812.50. But the only difference is you're going to have money going in there faster, because that 6% per month is going in. That 6% is a higher number because you have more money coming in per month. So if your income were even higher, you could get to the last paycheck and there would be no money left to go into your 403B because you've already hit the $19,500 just based on that 6%. Okay, so you just have to kind of do the math on it. Let's pretend your income is $500,000. Okay, and that means you're getting $20,833 per pay period. Okay, so $20,833 per pay period. How much are they going to put in as a match? I'm going to multiply that equals this, $20,833 times 3%. Okay, so that's going to be $625 per pay period. Okay, and then how much are you putting in? You're going to put in 6% equals this times 6%. Okay, well, 6% is $1,250. Okay, and 625 is your 3%. So these two combined are already $1,875, and they're going to put an additional 3%. So I put in this times 3% is 625. So if I add these all together, that ends up being $2,500 per paycheck. Well, when am I going to get my $1,250 to hit $19,500? So I'm going to do equals $19,500 divided by $1,250. So in 15.6 paychecks, so by my 16th paycheck, I'm already going to have hit the $19,500 mark. Okay, so in this situation, you can do that. You can just hit 6%, and then they're going to give 3% on all of those dollars, and then you're going to have capped out all of the amount that they're going to provide to you as a match, because you're basically getting the full 6% or 3% match and 3% match, and you're also getting your full $19,500. Okay. So that's how you have to kind of run these numbers to make sure that you're getting the entire match and that you don't over contribute too much and hit the $19,500 prematurely. You want to be able to get that match basically on every single paycheck. Now, there is an exception. So let's pretend you decided to front load this, and on your very first paycheck, you put in $19,500 because you made $20,833. Well, they're going to give you $625 and $625, but then you're going to be done receiving this $625 match. You're only going to get $625 this match one time for the entire year, and you're going to miss out on over $9,000 of match because they should be giving you $9,750, but you would have only gotten $625 of that. And that would be horrible loss to have lost $9,000. You can see if your company will do a true up where they will look back and see how much did you put in, and they will make sure they gave you 50% as long as you've put in your full 6% for the year. Okay, or that full $19,500, they'll make sure to give you that $9,750. They can do that, and you have to see if your company allows or does true up. Some companies do not do it. So if you are going to consider front loading, then you have to make sure they do it. And then you want to see when they're going to give you that and how much of a hassle it's going to be. If you want to get that true up, you want to make sure that you're able to get it without it being too difficult. You want it to happen during the calendar year. okay, and show up on your books. Now, I've done that example enough. I'm going to do one more example because at UT Southwestern, they have a special program, and it's not that uncommon. A lot of other universities have similar examples where they have two different 403B plans, okay? And they have what's called an ORP, which is an optional retirement program instead of their pension, okay? And they have an optional 403B, but it's not called the optional retirement plan. It's called the thrift savings annuity, or no, tax deferred savings annuity, I think, TSA. So what they do, okay, let's pretend your income is $300,000 and they do monthly paid periods. They do an employer contribution that's mandatory. And if you if you elect to take the ORP, and that mandatory contribution is 6.65%, okay? That 6.65% you have no control over, and it's going to come out of every single paycheck you take. All right, I'm trying to make it fit in the screen, but it's not going to show up. Okay, so I'm just going to do the math so you can see it. So $300,000 for the total year, you're going to take equals $300,000 times 6.65%. Okay, that's $19,950. And then there's a mandatory employer contribution of 8.5%. Okay, so these two combined make $45,000. Okay, now, a couple things here. Remember, your income that is based on can't actually exceed $290,000. So I have to redo this. It gets capped. So I'm going to change it to $290,000. So for this one equals 290,000 times 8.5%. There you go. So now it's $44,000. So that's the amount you can get in total from we call the optional retirement plan, which is mandatory contributions. Now, the amount that you're putting in here is $19,300 in this example, okay? But even if this were to exceed $19,500, it technically would still be okay because this is not called an elective deferral. It's very complicated, but because it's a mandatory plan, that does not affect your $19,500 limit that I mentioned before. This is just completely separate. The only time the $19,500 limit matters is when you're looking at the TSA, the employee deferral, the elective optional contribution that you don't have to put in. Okay, so because that $19,285 does not count toward that limit, then you'd say, well, let's put in $19,500. But now the problem is the $19,500 puts you all the way up to $63,435. You can't have your 403B accounts in total, in aggregate, exceed the $58,000 total employee and employer limit. So you have to back calculate how much you can put in. So I said this equals 58,000 minus the sum of the other two numbers. And then that gives me $14,065 and $58,000. So if you put in $14,065 into it, then you know you'll get the full $58,000 if you're in this situation. Now, if I want to figure out how much that is per month, it's $1,172.08 or 09. This will be 08 something. So you can just hit at the beginning of the year $1,172.09, and you set that up for January through December. And you do that through the whole year, and then you know that you are just going to get just enough to hit your $14,065, and it gives you enough room that you can get the full match. The match here is that $24,650. One of the horrible things that you can do by accident if you don't do this math is you could put in the full $19,500 at the beginning. And in doing that, you're going to end up $5,400 over, but the retirement plan won't let that actually happen. So what's going to happen is that there's going to be, so I'm going to figure out how much ORP contribution is per month, okay? divided by 12 and equals this divided by 12. So what's happening is they're putting in $2,000 per month as a mandatory contribution, 2,054, and you're putting in 1,607. But if you put in that 19,500 here at the beginning in your TSA, what will happen is your aggregate total is going to hit the $58,000 early. It's going to hit it in November. Okay. And what's going to happen is, because it happens in November, then in that December paycheck, you're not going to be able to put 160708 in there as a mandatory contribution because you've already hit the $58,000 limit. And because you can't put in 1607, the employer won't put in 2054. Okay. So you're going to miss out on that 2054 employer contribution in December. And in fact, you're actually going to lose a little bit of that contribution in November paycheck as well. So this is why it's super important to know how all the retirement accounts work and what limits are applicable for you. If you're over 50, they have higher limits than if you're under 50. And know if they allow a true up or not, and how is that match calculated. Okay, so for a lot of people, if you have one thing that's an elective contribution, the simplest thing to do is just set that up so that throughout the year, it's going in evenly for every paycheck, okay? Or what you can do is just not contribute to the elective portion. Okay, if you already have something like with a match that's not on the elective portion, you can just, if you're at UT Southwestern, you can just not do the TSA at all until like November and December, and then just figure out, just put in whatever you need to for your last paycheck to make sure you get the full 19, whatever it will cap out to be. Like if you make $20,000 or more in a month, you can just set your December paycheck to put in the full like 19,500. And what they will do is they will only put in the amount up to the limit, and it won't affect your match at all. Okay. This is a number of things that are pretty complicated. And I know that most people, when they start a job and they find out about these plans, nobody actually really explains it to them. And I've seen so many people get caught because they just didn't know. And frankly, it wasn't made clear to them. But also, frankly, most people don't make $300,000 or more at a company, because if you're one of those high earners, you're often like one of few employees. So these things just don't apply to you. Okay. So the more you know. All right, that's it for today's episode number 163. Make sure you get your whole match. That's part of your income. None of this is legal advice, accounting advice, financial advice, or anything otherwise. Please consult with your own financial professionals before making any of your own decisions. Sorry, I missed like a bunch of days last week. I'm going to try to catch up this week. Get a bunch more in. And until episode 164, have a great night. Oh, I'm looking at the chat box here. I'm allowed to do either 100% or flat dollar. Okay, that's good. This is less time in the market. Okay, ideally front loading is great, but if you're not front loading the money to make sure that you get it all in, whatever you would have extra put in, you just invest that somewhere else, like your taxable brokerage account. Okay? All right. If you missed the beginning, just go back here. The replay is on YouTube and is on Facebook. Have a great night.